MILFs of Reddit, what were some of the most desperate advances you've had to deal with from your son's friends? My mom is a MILF. Once my mom and I were walking, and some guy said to me in front of my mom, "Girl, you are cute, but your mom is smoking hot." She is 20 years older than me and hotter. Great. I'm a guy, but I guess my mom is a MILF. She definitely aged very well. Anyways, several times while I've been out with her, people mistake me for her boyfriend/boy toy. That's awkward. She's 26 years older than me. I'm 25. Also, so many times guys have not very subtly hit on her. She came to visit me when I was in college a few years ago, and these two dudes were sitting in a car we walked by, and we heard them say, "Damn, that is one sexy cougar. I want her to sit on my face." We've also had lots of guys follow her around. I remember when I was a kid, maybe 12, she came running into the house at night, crying. Some guy had chased her home from work and she literally had to run 6 blocks as he chased after her, yelling at her that he's going to hold her down and do things to her. She wouldn't tell me what he said because I was a kid. It freaked me out so much, I put my wooden nunchucks in her purse so she could defend herself. I'm 6'3" and pretty buff now and would kill anyone that f***ed with my mom nowadays. Awesome that you and your mom have a good relationship. When my brother graduated from high school, he had a big party at our house. My mom would walk around periodically to make sure things weren't getting too ridiculous. At one point, this kid very openly hit on my mom and told her she was hotter than any girl there. Obviously my mom noped out of that mess and was thoroughly creeped out. Perfect way to have the rest of the party without adult supervision. Or fuck your friend's mom. It's a win/win scenario, really. Non-zero sum game. You miss 100% of the chances you don't take. Not if you ask the MILF's son. I'd take one for the team. I bet you're not even a hot mom, Davidon. Did you just assume his/her hotness? /s. Yes. Nah, David Dan is just a friend of Stifler. Bye bye Miss American Pie. I don't consider myself to be a MILF, but I have had my son's friends try and make moves on me before. I'm younger, had my first kid in my early 20s, and am exotic Colombian immigrant in a small southern town. I think those play more of a role than my actual looks. Just something different than what the teen boys here are used to. The weirdest one was when my boys had a couple of friends over to watch a movie a couple of years ago. I believe they were 14 and 12 at the time. I was watching the movie with them, and one of the boys, 14 years old, put his arm around me. I didn't want to make a big deal about it and embarrass him or anything, so I tried to subtly get out of the situation. I yawned and I told the group that I was going up to bed, and he stood up and started following me. I asked what he was doing, and he said he thought I wanted him to come up to bed with me. I explained that I was sorry for the confusion, but that I absolutely did not want him to come up to bed with me. He apologized and returned back to the media room to watch the movie with the rest of the boys. My oldest is a senior in high school now and has been asked by his friends if they can take me to prom if they can't find another date. He put his arm around you and you yawned and said, "Boy, am I tired. I should go to the bedroom," to a 14-year-old boy. He's probably still confused to this day. He's 40 now and never had a girl. That woman at the party last night said she wanted me to fuck her so hard, but I'm not good at reading women. Yeah, I just gave up trying to understand them. Loneliness isn't so bad, you get used to it. Me too, thanks. Every moderately attractive high school teacher has been hit on. Currently, a senior that graduated last year is patiently waiting to turn 21 so he and I can go have a beer. I'm sure in his mind this will lead to a weekend of wild sex where I show him the hidden secrets of the Kama Sutra. I'm just interested to see if anything will have changed by then. Also, one of my son's friends once told me he'd like to experience an older woman and then stared at me. As a high school teacher, you don't need to be attractive. Teenagers are delusional. I've watched as teachers have basically been forced out of schools by teenage rumors based on absolutely nothing. As a male teacher, you have to be very careful. It can be pretty rough for women as well. Even worse was when I was a GTA at university. The people you are working with think they are adults, and the age range is closer. Technically your career isn't in jeopardy, you're often allowed to engage with students, but the reputational damage can be terrible. Also, being stalked sucks. Again, this isn't about being attractive. It is about strange power relationships and delusional young people. How long were you a Grand Theft Auto? Right until he woke up outside a hospital. And after he paid $5,000 for the inconvenience of death and revival. Healthcare is pretty good in the GTA world. They'll revive anybody, no matter how bad, and just take a percentage of your money, thus meaning even hobos can get revived from death. Perhaps that's why the cops are so quick to use lethal force and they won't come after you until you've killed at least 2 people. The paramedics arrive, and the taxi driver on the other lane gets impatient and runs you over. This made me laugh far harder than it should have. What a dystopia. I wouldn't say I'm a MILF, but 2 of my daughter's friends have hit on me, and her boyfriend of 3 years tried to kiss me. The most desperate was the boyfriend. We had gone on vacation for my daughter's 21st birthday to a small town with hot springs. While my daughter, her boyfriend and her friends camped nearby, I chose to stay in a hotel to give the young people their privacy. We all went together for a soak one evening, but my daughter wasn't feeling well and stayed at the campground. After the soak, the boyfriend was quite drunk, so I gave him a ride back to the campsite. When we arrived, he started professing his undying love for me, said my name 3 times in his most serious attempt at a sexy voice, and leaned in for a kiss. He never saw my fist, but felt it land squarely in his sternum. It made for an awkward morning. He confessed to my daughter the next day and she laughed hysterically at his ridiculousness. They broke up not long after. It's good to know this didn't lead to any serious conflicts between you 2. He was pretty good at doing and saying ridiculous things when drinking. My daughter and I also have a wonderful bond and a lot of trust. I kinda love that you punched him. Fucking right. Like, it's a bit unwarranted, but at the same time entirely warranted. I'm impressed she managed to keep her age north of the ballsack. Usually in situations like this, it's the boys downstairs that take the initial attack. Please no. I'm sure that's what she was saying as soon as he started professing his love. Pain is one thing, especially in between the legs, but when someone comes out to you like that they almost stop being a respectable person. They turn into some weird zombie to you, and you just think they're objectifying you in their mind. Which as a guy I can say that there is a high probability rate of that. So what do you do with zombies? You hit them. I'm not sure that this qualifies, but here goes. When I was 45, I guess I hit my peak. We went to the pool in Vegas. Men kept hitting on me. One time I went to the bathroom, which was about 200 feet away from the pool, behind a row of trimmed hedges. 7 men in their 20s or so hit on me during the short trip to and from the bathroom. One young man was pretty insistent. He said that his hotel room was right there on the property. We could be back in 7 minutes, before my husband even noticed that I was gone. I started laughing so uproariously. I wasn't going to go, no matter the offer, but come on, if you are going to try to seduce me, you could do better than that. I said no thank you. If I was going to fool around, he would have to do better than that. It would take us 3 minutes to get up to his room. I would certainly hope for more than a minute of pleasure. I just don't understand this logic. My wife gets these kinds of comments a lot. Do these guys think that every woman wants to f them so bad that the only thing stopping them is the thought that their husband may find out? In their minds, is there really no other reason why a woman would not want to have sex with them? Like, every woman looks at these guys and thinks to herself, well, shit, look at that piece of man meat. I just laid eyes on him for the first time, but I'd be willing to jeopardize years of trust and a healthy, loving marriage just to get that insecure, probably undersized pumping me for 30 seconds. Sigh. Thank you. I'm in a healthy and loving relationship. The love I have for my so is deep, and you think I'm going to jeopardize that for sex? I have no idea why some men think, just because you're in a relationship, that you have no sex life. For some that might hold true, but don't judge a book by its cover. When I was in my junior year of high school, I decided to spend Christmas Eve with my girlfriend and her family at their grandmother's farmhouse. Their grandmother was a short, frail, bohemian woman who dressed like Steve Jobs and always smelled like dust and Cabernet. Her silver hair was wispy and long, and she kind of reminded me of a thin Gandalf. Right off the bat she was flirtatious with me, squeezing my arms, and telling my girlfriend how your last boyfriend was such a stick. Upgrade. And although it was awkward, I of course didn't feel physically intimidated. Until it happened. After dinner, I decided to help by doing the dishes in the kitchen, while others were lounging in the front room. As I'm washing, I feel a pair of hands creep around my stomach from behind. Thinking they were my girlfriends, I laughed and said, "Hey you." I was met with the single most guttural hello I'd ever heard. I mean, it was as though the woman had drowned her vocal cords in Zinfandel and Camel Reds. I looked down and saw the spotted wrinkly hands and was frozen in shock. Having not said anything, she probably assumed she had the okay and proceeded to move her hand down to my butt, to which I said please never do that again, and left the kitchen. I went to the front room and excused myself for the night and drove home. I never felt physical intimidation from her, but the whole situation was so off-putting, being that I was 16 years old and she was somewhere around 73. She also gave me intense lengthy lectures on the proper way to take my then girlfriend's virginity. Not graphic, just weird. Do you think maybe she had dementia? My wife works with old people and sometimes they forget about boundaries when there are memory problems. I highly doubt it. I'd had many a conversation with this woman prior and after, and she had to be one of the most well-composed and calculating elderly people I'd ever met and interacted with. My grandpa suffers from dementia and the two are on completely different spheres of coherence. Not a chance. There are different kinds of dementia, and they don't all necessarily affect intelligence. It kind of sounds like frontotemporal dementia. Intelligence and memory aren't really affected with that disease, but behavior is, and people who suffer from it can be very inappropriate and lack impulse control. Maybe she had it. Of course, she could have just been a dirty old lady without the excuse of a disease.